Hello, and welcome to this lower body crow flow inspired class. The crow has some really fascinating and interesting symbolic perspectives, and a few I found relative to today's practice includes the symbolic elements of magic, mystery, personal transformation, and courage. With these being our inspiration for today's class, we will physically explore expanding our range of motion and strengthening the magical and mysterious parts of ourselves, like the spine, hips, knees, ankles, and toes. Additionally, let's give ourselves space to be open and receptive to trying new things, and notice what we discover about ourselves along the way. Ultimately, invoking the strength, the bravery, the courage to do things that maybe we haven't done before, to reveal and embrace what truly makes you, you. So take a moment here to establish your breath if you haven't done so already. Breathing in and out through your nose, ideally, if you can. Seal your intention. And then go ahead and lie down slowly onto your backs. When you lie down, you'll let your knees knock in and take your feet out a little bit wider, finding what is called internal rotation of your hips. You can explore how wide you take your feet. We're going to utilize this shape in a moment for an exercise, strengthening that outer region of our hips, our glutes. So in a moment, you're going to maintain the legs in this internally rotated position. And what you'll do is you'll keep pressing your feet out towards the sides of the room while the knees stay together. That's the first part. The second part, we're going to bring the legs together. And when the legs lift up, one leg will stay in towards the midline as the opposite leg pushes out to the internally rotated position. All right? So stay in this internally rotated position just a little bit longer and really heighten your awareness to the back of your pelvis, kind of where the sit bone region is, and notice the sensation there. Prepare, take a breath in, and then on your exhale, press the lower back down and lift your legs up, squeezing the thighs together. At the same time, try and press your feet apart. Then slowly release, lower down. You might want to press your hands down here too. Breath in. And on your breath out, press the lower back down, legs lift up, squeeze thighs in, press feet out as much as you can, and then slowly lower back down one more time. Breath in. On your breath out, press the lower back down, lift the thighs up, the legs up, squeeze the legs together, press the feet out to the side as firmly as possible, and then slowly relax and release. Breath in and out through the nose. You might want a windshield wiper the legs side to side before our next exercise. You can bring the knees together and come back into that passive, internally rotated position of the legs. And then bring the legs together. Our next exercise, we're doing one leg at a time. So press the lower back down, lift the thighs up. Keep your knees together and press the right foot out to that internally rotated position. Right leg comes in and then switch sides. Left leg is pressing out to internally rotate one leg at a time. We'll do this 2 more times each side. So right foot pushes out, squeeze the knees together. Then left foot presses out, squeeze the knees together. Coming back into center one more time. Right leg is pressing out, out, out. Legs together. And then left leg, outer heel, pushing out, out, out. Slowly bring the legs together. Release. Take a breather here. Now you can continue with these exercises or we're going to add on. This is an option. So again, bring the legs together. This time interlace your hands behind your head. Press the lower back down. Lift your thighs, your feet up. Take a breath in, keep the lower back pressing down. On your breath out, lift the head and shoulders up. Maintain this position, internally rotate the right leg, press it out. Maybe lift up a little bit higher, head and shoulders. Bring the legs together, lower head and shoulders down. Breath in. On your breath out, lift the head and shoulders up, keeping the lower back pressing down. Take one more breath in, and on your breath out, press the left heel out a little bit more to internally rotate just the left leg. Maybe lift the collarbones up a little more. Then bring the legs together, lower the head and shoulders down, lower the feet down, and relax. Breath in and breath out. That was so fun. We're going to do that again. So press the lower back down, lift the legs up, squeezing them together to start. Breath in. On your breath out, head and shoulders lift up. Take another breath in. On your breath out, internally rotate the right leg. And now option is to add a twist to the right as well. Inhale, return to center, legs together, head and shoulders down, and breathe in. On your breath out, lower back presses down, lift the head and shoulders, collarbones up, breath in. Breath out, left leg internally rotates, option rotate to your left. Pause here, one more breath in, and then slowly return to center with the chest, with the legs, lower down, and breathe. So we're slowly progressing through each phase. Stay with whichever one is a bit of a challenge for you. Otherwise, one more option to add on. So breath in, lift the head and shoulders up. Take another breath. You'll add on a rotation as you internally rotate the leg, and option is to extend the left arm to the outside of your right thigh. Slowly release head and shoulders down, breath in. On your breath out, press the lower back down, chest lifts up, internally rotate left leg, option rotate left. Option, reach right arm across. As you inhale, return to center, legs together. Exhale, release, lower down, maybe a little windshield wiper. And for now, that little core exercise is done. Squeeze your knees in towards your chest. If it feels okay to rock and roll up and down your spine, then do that. Eventually, we're going to find a tabletop position. Once you find your tabletop position, we're going to start with just a little bit of movement and exploration of our wrist. So starting with the left hand, if you have a rough surface, you might want to find something a little bit smoother to work. And we're just going to start with some circular actions of the wrist. Let the elbow, the shoulder even come into the movement, going in one direction a couple of times and then switching the opposite direction. Once you've done that evenly on the left side, switch and you'll do the right wrist. Couple little circles here exploring the wrist. After that's done, arms will be straight. Grip the fingertips into the earth and shift the shoulders over the wrist. Maintain the extension as you pull the fingertips, the palms up towards the sky, sitting back towards your heels. Slowly maintaining that extension so you feel the back of your forearms working. Shift forward, shoulders towards the wrist line. And then shift backwards, peeling the palms up, fingertips up. Active wrist extension. Let's do this again. Shift forward, shoulders over the wrist. And then shift backwards, hips towards your heels. Maybe the toes are tucked or not. And pull the palms up, the fingertips up. Slowly shift forward, shoulders over the wrist. And then pause here, pressing the palms down as if you're trying to lift the heels up, the heels of your hands up, but don't. From here, from that tabletop position, right leg will reach back. We're just going to do a little bit of exploration of the ankle, the toes. So I love this kind of like foot, ankle, toe smash. Roll around a couple times, getting the outer edges of your feet, especially around that big toe. So circle around and explore how your ankle and your foot is feeling here. And then when you're ready, switch sides. Just like the wrist, doing a couple circles in one direction and a couple circles in the opposite direction. Especially for a lot of people, the big toe seems to be a little bit sticky, so see if it's comfortable enough for you to bring a little bit of extra weight into it to wake up the feet, wake up the toes. We'll come back into our tabletop position, but slide your knees back a little bit further, and now actively squeeze your heels towards your butt. So you're trying to close the gap between or in the back of your knee. You're going to feel a little more action in the back of the thighs. And maintain that. You're going to tip your thighs over towards the right and then swivel over towards the left. Do that one more time. Over towards the right, squeezing your heels in towards your butt. And then eventually you'll sit over onto your right hip. Once you land onto your right hip, we'll slowly explore the relationship of our scapula, the shoulder blade, onto our rib cage. So this is elevation, depression, protraction, retraction, and we're slightly loading it as well, being on our hand. So just explore a couple circles one way, a couple circles the opposite way. Pausing with the shoulders slightly protracted, depressed, and the upper arm externally rotated. Bring your left hand onto your hip, and as you press the bottom hand, the bottom shin down, the outer right hip will lift up, hold, slowly lower back down. And we'll do this 2 more times. Lift, keep pushing the earth away, the outer hip coming up, and then lower. One more time. Lift, and slowly lower back down. You might like to bring your hand a little bit closer in just to find a little more stability of the shoulder and the wrist. And then here, begin to lift back up. Then bring your feet together. Open the knees apart into this diamond shape, or the clamshell exercise, some people call this. And we'll stay here. So the hip is lifting up, and 3 times you'll work this shape, the knees coming together, and then the knees actively pressing away from each other, working on strengthening the stabilizing muscles that surround your pelvis and your glute region. Slowly lower your outer hip down on the last one, roll onto your belly, and extend your legs out long. Giving our wrists a little relief. Take the arms back, and now flex the wrist, so curl the fingers into the back of your forearm. Then start to extend the wrist, fingers down towards the floor. Do this a couple of times. Flex the wrist and extend. Flex, maintain, and now lift the chest as you press your legs down, pubic bone down. Bend the elbows, extend your wrists, lower the hands along your side ribs to push up and back into a child's pose position. If that's comfortable for you, otherwise stay upright or come to tabletop. Eventually start to roll yourself forward. And we're going to find that kind of elongated tabletop position again, the knees slightly back and the heels squeezing firmly into the glutes. Maintain the heels as they are, the hands pressing firmly down. Swivel the hips to the left, swivel to the right, swivel to the left, and with control, lower the outer left hip down. Playing around with the scapular motion here on the left arm, keep the arm straight and begin to explore. Feeling the relation of the shoulder blade moving into or on the back of your rib cage. Up, down, side to side. Doing it a couple of times in one direction and then switch the opposite direction. Eventually, right hand will come to hip. You'll push down into that bottom arm to lift the outer left hip away from the ground. 3 times. Lower, lift, lower, lift. On the last one, you might need to bring your hand in just a little bit closer. Keep the bottom arm straight, push down, and lift the outer hip up, finding the clam shape. The knees as far apart as possible, and then bringing the knees slowly together. Every time that you peel the knees apart, think squeeze your butt a little bit, but also lift the front of your pubic bone up. And notice the sensation you feel at the front, the back of the hips. On the last one, lower down. Roll over onto your belly and extend your legs out long. Reach your arms back, flex your wrists, fingers in towards the back of your forearm, and then extend. Pull the fingers to the front of the forearm. And just do that a couple times. On this last one, you'll keep the legs pressing down, maintain the flexion of your wrist, lift your chest up, slowly bend the elbows, bring your palms alongside the rib cage. You might stay with cobra, or maybe this round you might straighten the arms, press the shoulders away from your ears as you lift to up dog. Lower the knees down, your hips back, child's pose. Smooth breath in and out through your nose. Moving forward slowly into tabletop. And then you can stay in the same direction if you'd like. I'm just turning around so you can see the next little bit we're going to work into. You might like to grab your 2 yoga blocks if you have them. Again, I'm using some Tupperware because I don't have yoga blocks right now. So just making do with what I got. Blocks, books, something that's going to be pretty sturdy. And as you sit onto your shins, one leg at a time, you'll start to lift the knee up. So you're starting to find a lot more plantar flexion. That's when the toes are pointing in a downward direction, opening through the front of your ankle with a little bit of weight here. Now, if it's too much, I'm going to show you can just sit over onto your butt and use your hands, or even without your hands, to manually bring the foot into some rotations or even into that pointer flexion position. Otherwise, stick with this, opening up through the front of your ankles a little bit more. You might stick with one leg at a time, or with or without the blocks underneath your hands, you might bring the weight back and try and lift and hover the knees up. Try not to let your ankles splay out to the sides. Keep squeezing the ankles in towards the midline, and maybe try this a couple more times, leaning the weight back, floating the knees up. You might even try leaning the weight back, floating the knees up, maybe even float your hands up and see if you can hold here for 3, 2, 1, and slowly release, lower down. Press your hands down to the earth or your blocks. Tuck your toes under and come into this kind of stiletto feet looking shape. Keep squeezing the ankles in towards the midline. Get a little bit more weight into your big toe. From here, the heels will drop down towards the earth, and then the heels will lift up away from the earth. So think little mini calf raises. Heels down, heels up, and then eventually we're going to roll over the center part of our feet back to our shins. Then roll over the center part of our feet to the stiletto feet and lower the heels down. So we're doing just a little vinyasa, a little ankle and toe flow. You can think about this as the same transition from upward facing dog with your feet to downward facing dog. Eventually we'll find a squat position. You might need to roll something up, a blanket towel to put underneath your heels if the heels are lifted. You might even use some support underneath your pelvis, books, a block, whatever you have. And we'll find a passive range of our legs in this shape, same like the clamshell shape we did earlier. Same, just a little different. Now we're going to use our elbows to push the knees out as far as they can go, finding our passive range. And then we'll start to recruit those muscles in the outer hip and glutes like we were using earlier to maintain ourselves in that shape. So pull the elbows away and keep trying to squeeze the knees out and apart from each other. Then eventually release, relaxing. And we're going to explore a little bit more of the rotational element of our hips, the internal and external rotation. So lift up your heels so you can drop your knee into internal rotation, and then drop the heel down so you can press the leg out into a little bit of that external rotation. There's some elements of adduction and abduction as well here. So it's really starting to wake up things around our pelvis, around our hips, our glutes, and everything in between. Switch sides. Doing a few rounds on the other side as well. The heel will lift up, so you have to pivot, or you can pivot on the ball of your foot to work the rotation a little bit more. Afterwards, come back into your passive range, pressing the elbows out, but now as well squeeze the knees into your elbows. Your elbows push out to your knees. Slowly releasing your hands down, begin to lengthen your legs, toe heel your feet in underneath your hips. Halfway lift, lengthen your chest, your spine, and then release and fold, come into ragdoll. You might like to sway a little side to side. Relax your head, release your neck, and breathe. And then release your hands down, lengthen your spine. Slowly fold forward, push down, and roll the body up to standing. We're going to do a little bit of standing cars work. So try not to let the rest of the body move. We'll start with our neck. Slowly bring your chin down towards your chest. To the right, rotate your head. Right ear towards right shoulder, side bend. Draw a line up and over to the left, side bending left ear to shoulder. Rotate left. Come down through flexion and reverse. To the left, rotate. Side bend ear to shoulder. Draw a line up and over to the right. Side bending, rotating, coming down through flexion. Moving on to the spine, bring your arms across the body, slowly flex, upper middle back. Rotate right, side bend right shoulder, right hip. Extend up and over to the left side, bend shoulder to hip. Rotate left, come down through flexion, and then reverse. Rotate, side bend, extend up and over, side bend, rotate, come down through flexion, and release. We'll move on to some scapular cars. Reach your arms forward, make tight fist. Lift the shoulders up towards your ears, then retract, draw back, pull down, and push forward. So elevate, retract, drawing back, pushing down to press, and then punch forward, protract, and then we will switch directions. Punching forward, drawing down, retracting back, and lifting up. Do that one more time. Try to expand the circle as you move through the scapular cars. Then eventually take your hands behind, interlock your fingers if you can, otherwise grab a little towel or a belt between your hands and keep your palms apart. If you can, take the arms up and overhead. Find a bit of a passive stretch here in the extension of the arms. Release your hands down, come to your halfway lift. Walking yourself forward. If you have your props there, place your hands down on top, lift your heels up, stiletto feet. Slowly lower your bum down towards your heels. Roll over the tops of your feet to come back onto your shins, coming back the same way that we came out of the shape before. Pause here for a moment, couple rounds of breath. And then move your props off to the side. We'll come back into an extended child's pose shape. Otherwise, stay on tabletop. We're going to move there in a moment anyways. We're going to work into some segmental cat-cows, and that means really slowing down the movements, the transitions in between. We'll add on some flexion, the bending of the back knees to actively bring your heels in towards your butt when you come into the cat-like shape. So very slowly move through your cat-cow. Moving from the upper spine, middle, lower spine as you curl into the cat, heels to butt. Then lower the shins down, starting from the lower spine, middle, upper back into the cow shape. And continue very slowly articulating through the spine. Trying to encourage the movement through all of the spine, the vertebra. This last one, you might come up onto your fingertips. And then lower the palms down. Lower your shins down, tuck your toes, hover your knees. Press back and up to downward facing dog. Press firmly down through your hands, lifting up and back. You might have the knees a little bit bent, the heels lifted. That's totally fine too. Try to focus more on opening up the space in your armpits, your chest, while gently drawing the rib cage in. Eventually, you'll bring your feet together, lift up your heels, stiletto the feet, and then right leg will lift up and back from the inner thigh. Bend the knee, bend the hip, pull the knee in towards the chest, slowly shift forward, rounding the spine, pushing the earth away as you step the right foot between your hands. Lower back knee down, If you can, keep your toes tucked. Maybe use support underneath the knee. Draw back and push up into low lunge, reaching your arms forward in front of you, arms straight. And extend your wrists, the fingers facing up. On your next exhale, round your spine and push the palms even more forward in front. And a little bit, tuck your tailbone under, feel a little interesting stretch through the front of your hip. Eventually, straighten the right leg, sweeping the arms back behind, flex your wrists. And then digging your front heel down to bend your front knee. Use the back of your right thigh muscles, those tissues, to bend the leg. Then straighten the leg, draw the hips back, sweep the arms back. Use the heel, dig it down to bend the front knee forward, rounding the spine, pushing the palms forward. This time, as you draw the hips back and reach your arms back behind you, take an interlace of your hands behind, binding the fingers. Otherwise, grab your little towel. Use your front heel leg to bend the knee. Eventually, tuck the back toes under and fire up the back leg as you straighten, pressing the heel back, the outer right hip cutting back. Slowly release the hands, lowering the left fingertips down, right arm up, twist, and then lower the left palm down. You might grab a block here. 3 slow and curious circles of the right arm, exploring the internal rotation so that your knuckles face in towards the outer hip as you sweep past the hip. And when the arm comes forward into the line of your ear, can you rotate externally? That means turn the palm in. Lower the back knee down, this last one. Bend your back knee, maybe catch hold of your foot. And if you do catch hold of the foot, can you bring the heel in a little bit closer? Find your passive range. Activating the tissues in the back of your left thigh here. Release your hand and try and keep your heel squeezing in towards your butt. Slowly lower the right hand down. Lower the back shin down. You'll pivot the shin to the left and then step the right foot behind to find the diamond or clam shape with your legs. Slowly, the right leg is going to lift up. And once the right leg lifts up, pause here. Starting with the knee bent, begin to point your toes, and then start to extend your leg. Flex your ankle. Flex the knee, point the toes down, pointer flexion. Then extend your leg and come into dorsiflexion of the ankle. And do this one more time. And on this last one, keep your heel driving in towards your bum. Reach your arm back as an option, maybe catch hold of the foot. A Chapasana variation of our side plank. As you slowly release with control, lower the right hand down, pull the right knee in towards your chest, externally rotate the front leg to lower the shin, and then slide the left knee back. Walk your hands back to an active pigeon. Make tight fists and flex your wrist, pulling the knuckles in towards the inner part of your forearms. And with the active pigeon, you're squeezing the inner seams of the legs, like the right thigh, the outer hip is pulling back and the left hip forward. Eventually, you'll release down onto your right hip. We're going to play around with the back leg, working a little bit of hovering work. So lean the body over to the side, lift the outer left leg up, slowly bend the knee, then flex the hip, pulling the knee in towards the front leg. And then we'll reverse, lifting up, extend the leg back as much as you can. So back leg hovers, knee bends, then hip bends, lower down. Left leg will hover, lift up, extend the leg, extend the hip, then extend the knee. One more time. Back leg hovers, lift up. Try not to use momentum. Use the outer glute stuff. Bend the knee, bend the hip, lower down. Last one. Outer leg will lift up, extend the hip, extend the knee. Return to your pigeon position with the hands down. Tuck your back toes under, and as you push the earth away, pull the front leg in towards the chest. Slowly step back, downward facing dog, and breathe. Now you can stay here, you can take a break and lower down onto your shins. Otherwise, lift your heels up, ripple forward, high plank. Maybe lower the knees down as you come forward and down, pulling yourself to your belly. Keep your legs grounded as you sweep the arms back. Flex your wrist, fingertips to the back of your wrist. Pull your chest up, and then bring your hands along the side. You might come up into an upward facing dog to transition. Think roll over the center of your feet to downward facing dog. So of course, that little flow bit is optional. You can choose to stay in down dog actively or lower down onto your shins. From down dog, bring your feet together. Lift your heels up high, left leg. The inner thigh lifts it up. Bend the knee, then bend the hip, flexing, pulling the knee in towards the chest. When you can't go any further, roll forward and step the left foot forward between your hands. Lower your back knee down. Keep the toes tucked. Draw the weight back, push down, roll up, low lunge. Bring the arms forward in line with your shoulders. Extend your wrists. Like you're pushing the earth away, round the upper, middle, back, even a little bit the lower spine so you feel that lovely opening in the front of your right hip. And then prepare to straighten your front leg by pulling the hips back, the arms back, the chest forward. Rebend the front knee by digging the front heel down, feeling the back of your left thigh doing the work here. And then re-straighten the leg, arms back, chest forward. One more time, dig the heel down to pull yourself forward, rounding the upper spine. Then draw the hips back, arms back, chest forward, and from here, interlock your hands behind, little bind. If it feels a bit restricted, place something between your hands. Front knee will slowly rebend. Use the hamstring stuff to do that as you tuck your back toes and fire up the back leg. Draw the outer left hip back, the inner right thigh up to square off the hips, lengthen your chest. Slowly release your hands. The right fingertips come down, the left arm will peel open. As we come into our twist, lower the right hand down, firmly push the earth away in the bottom arm, and curiously explore the left arm. 3 times circle, internally rotating as the arm sweeps alongside the hip, and then externally rotating as the arm comes up in line with your ear. On your last one, lower your back knee down. Actively draw the back right heel in towards your bum, and if you can, catch hold. If not, no worries. And see if you can find a little bit more passive range here by bringing the heel in towards your bum. Maintain the shape as you release your hand and hold the heel. Hold the heel in towards your glutes. Keep pulling in. There you go. From here, you'll release the bottom hand down, spin your shin, your bottom one to the right. You'll step your left foot back to meet the right foot, finding the diamond clamshell shape with the legs. Keep pushing down firmly through your bottom arm for support. And then lift and hover your left leg up. Extend the leg, flex the foot. Then bend the knee and pointer flex, pointing the toes down. We'll do this a couple of times. Extend, straighten the leg, and dorsiflex the foot. Then bend the knee and point the toes, pointer flex. One more time. Straighten the leg, dorsiflex the foot. Bend the knee, point the toes down. Option is to reach your top left arm back. Maybe you catch hold of the foot into a Chapasana variation. Slowly release. Left hand will come down. Left knee will pull into chest. Finding your pigeon variation, lower the left shin down, the toes slightly turn in, and start to slide the right leg a little bit back. We're staying active through the inner seams of the legs. The left outer hip is drawing back, the right hip thigh is pulling forward. You might hover with the arms up. You might even take fists and flex your wrists again, giving them a little relief. Eventually, slowly lower down onto your outer left hip, and we'll play around with the hovers of the back right leg. So lean over enough that you can clear the leg. Right leg will lift up, bend the knee, then bend, flex the hip, land and lower down. Then right leg will lift up, extend the hip, extend the knee, land the leg. 2 more times. Back leg lifts, bend the knee, bend the hip, The right leg then lifts, extend the hip, extend the leg. One more time. Lift, knee bends, hip bends. Right leg lifts, extend hip, extend the knee. Bring your hands forward again, coming back into that pigeon shape. And then eventually tuck your back toes under. Pull the left knee in towards the chest, tiger curl, and step left foot back, downward facing dog. Feel free to stay here in your down dog or option to move through a flow, slowly rolling forward, articulating through the spine, high plank or kneeling plank. Pull yourself forward and down all the way to your belly with control. Keep the legs grounded, reach the arms back, flex your wrist, maybe even do some circles here. We've been doing quite a bit on our hands. Eventually pull the chest forward and up. Bend the elbows, land your hands down. Maybe transition as an option to up dog, or you can stay with cobra. And then roll over the center of your feet. Come back to downward facing dog. Breathe here. Sending the breath in and out through your nose smoothly, calmly. This is a practice that requires a little bit more effort. So just as important to create some balance is to utilize the potency, the power of the breath to relax the mind when the body is being asked to do a little bit more today. Lower the knees down, sit back onto your feet. If you can, keep your toes tucked under. A little bit more work with the shoulders. So bring the arms forward. We'll play around with the scapular cars in a kneeling position. Doing 2 rotations in the forward direction, 2 rotations in the opposite direction. Then eventually take your hands behind your head. Some seated cat-cow. Come into extension, lift the front of your chest up, your collarbones up, and then come into flexion, rounding the spine, the elbows curling down into your belly. And do this a couple more times and see if you can slow it down like we did on all fours. Can you truly work the segmentation, moving from the lower, middle to upper back and reversing? Maybe you find a little bit more depth with each movement. Not trying to force it though. Eventually release your hands down after a few rounds. Walk your hands forward again, tuck your toes, and press up and back to downward facing dog. Breathe here. Adding on to the sequence now, bring your feet together in down dog, lift your heels up, push the left foot down and reach your right leg up and back. Bend the knee, pull the knee in towards your chest, round forward, stepping right foot between your hands. Lower back knee down, draw the hips back, push down, roll up, reach your arms forward, your fingertips up. With your back toes tucked, push down through the feet to lift the back knee. Round the upper middle back as you push the palms more forward in front of you, and then 3 small pulses going down and up, down and up. The last one you'll hold here. Slowly begin to extend your back leg as you reach your arms back, your chest forward. Flex the wrist, maybe a little circle, and even from here you can bind the hands if you'd like, otherwise hands to hip, or grab 2 blocks to place the hands underneath your shoulders as you optionally fold forward, your right eyebrow towards your right shin. Dig the front heel down to rebend the front knee, launching forward. The left leg lifts up and back. Keep drawing the outer right hip back as the inner left thigh lifts up towards the sky. And slowly come to standing. As you do so, you're actively pulling the left knee in towards your chest, flexing the hip. Release your hands, twisting. Right hand will come to the outside of your left thigh, or as an option, you might extend the leg and catch hold of your outer foot. the outer hip dropping away from your left armpit as you turn. Eventually rebend the knee, pull the knee in towards your chest using your hands, finding your passive range of hip flexion. Then round the spine, forehead towards the knee. Maintain the leg as it is. As you release your hands, push your palms firmly forward, rounding your upper and middle back. Then bend the bottom knee and slowly transition. Fingertips down, stepping left foot to the back of your mat. The left hand will stay pressing down, right arm will reach up to the sky, twist. Slowly transition to the outer edge of your back foot. You might toe heel the right foot halfway down to your side plank variation. Otherwise, lift the right foot up almost like a tree pose shape. You can stay there or maybe catch the foot behind. Kicking the foot back, lift the front of your hips up. Option is to transition into Wild Thing. You can slowly lower your hips down, then re-lift the hips, reaching the arm up and overhead. Eventually lower your butt down. You'll face towards the back of your mat. Seated spinal twist. Rotate towards the right. The left arm will hug to the outside of the thigh. You're trying to press the leg out into your arm into your leg. And you can keep the fingertips of the back arm, the right hand to the floor, or lift up the right arm, make a fist, and rotate the arm internally and externally a couple of times. You'll want to finish with the internal rotation, and that means the eye of your elbow will rotate down if you're going to take the arm behind the back. Then eventually release. Turn towards your left extended leg, allowing the right foot here to come to the inner thigh, Janu Shirshasana shape, folding forward. Take a breath in and out. Slowly lift the body up. This is an option for a little bit of extra left hip strengthening work. So lift the left leg off of the ground and hold, then slowly release. Option 2 more times. The left leg lifts up. Try and close the gap between your thigh and your belly. Then release. Last time. Left leg lifts up. Hold, hover. And then slowly relax. Lower back down. As you transition out, bring your right foot to the floor. Left hand behind. Option to come up into a little Wild Thing to transition. Bringing the right hand down, stepping and sliding the right shin forward and front. Finding your active pigeon again, walking the hands back, engage the inner seams of your legs. Maybe float the hands up and maybe do some little wrist circles. And as you do that, you might slowly start to lift your arms up towards the line of your ears. And eventually when your arms come to this overhead position, keep drawing the ribs in, lift the front of your pubic bone up. Option is to bend your elbows, bring your hands behind. Maybe actively try to bend your back knee and squeeze your heel in towards your glutes. A variation, an active variation of Ekapada Raj Kapotasana. Slowly release as you lower back down. Straighten your arms, push the earth away, pull the right knee to chest, and step back to down dog. Feel free to do a little flow here if you'd like. Otherwise, just hang out where you are. We'll meet here eventually. Smooth breath in and out through your nose. As we meet back to downward facing dog eventually, you'll bring your feet together. Lift your heels up high, stiletto feet. Push right foot down, left leg to sky. Bend the knee. Pull the knee in towards the chest, round the spine as you push the earth away and step left foot forward between your hands. Lower the back knee down, draw the weight back, push down, roll up, reach your arms forward and fingers up. Now the last time I kept the spine straight when I transitioned, so you can keep it straight as you hover the back knee and then curl, or you can try curling and then lifting up. Same, just a little different. And then 3 slow pulses here. Up and down. The last one will hold in the lowered position and then slowly begin to extend the back leg, straightening it out, even the front leg out if available as you pull your chest forward. When the arms are reaching back, you might do some little circles of your wrists and then eventually interlock your hands behind or hands to hips or onto blocks, folding left eyebrow towards left shin. Use the front heel, dig it down to bend your front knee. Coming onto the toes of your back foot, slowly shift forward, launching forward, lifting the right leg up and back. Right knee will slowly come up towards the chest. Pull it in as high as you can actively go. And come into a twist. The left hand will come outside the right thigh, right arm reaching back behind. Option, catch hold of your outer foot and extend the leg. Try and drop the outer right hip down away from your armpit. Rebend into your front knee. Interlock your hands over top of your shin as you turn your chest forward. Big breath in, lengthen your spine, and then round and curl, upper, middle, back. Keep your leg in the same shape as you reach your arms forward, fingers up. Nice deep bend into your bottom knee to transition simultaneously, hands down, right foot stepping to the back of your mat. As you land into your runner's lunge, press your right hand down and add your twist, left arm reaching up towards the sky. Keep pressing firmly through the right hand as you toe heel the left foot down halfway. You're on the outer blade of your right foot, or maybe bring your legs together. Maybe from here, find your tree shape, the left foot sliding up the inner thigh. Maybe taking the leg back behind you, maybe catching hold of your foot. As you slowly release, lowering the left foot behind the leg. Option is to lower the hips and then re-lift the hips into Wild Thing variation. Then eventually lower your pelvis down. We'll turn towards the back of the space here. Oh, my hand got a little caught on the sticky mat. And we'll come into a seated spinal twist. So the right leg is reaching out long, press the heel down. Rotate the chest towards your left inner thigh, closing the gap between your ribs and your leg. Hold on firmly with the right arm, and if available, you can reach the left arm back, make a fist, and explore doing some internal and external rotation. You'll want to finish with the internal rotation, so the bicep rolling down towards the floor, before you take your arm back behind you and maybe find a half bind here, so that the scapula is on the rib cage, not sticking out and away from the rib cage. Slowly release the bind if you have it. Turn your chest towards your right leg. And you can't quite see here, but the left leg is in the tree leg shape, so the foot to the inner thigh, the knee dropped out towards the side. Breathe in and breathe out. You can hang out there or lift the body up, and then we'll work some active hip flexion. Lifting the right leg up and away from the ground, hold, and then lower. Hold, lower. On the last one, as you lift, hold. Your right thigh might cramp. Just waking things up a little bit more here. And then slowly we'll transition out of it. Bring your right hand down to the earth. Lift up the hips, moving through Wild Thing. Pull the left knee in towards the chest as you slide the left shin forward, finding your active pigeon second time. Walk the hands back, maybe even float the hands. Options again for some nice little wrist circles here. And as you continue to circle your wrists, you might start to take your arms slowly up to the overhead flex position. Option from here is bending the elbows behind the head and as well trying to bend the knee. So maybe one day eventually you catch hold of the foot actively instead of passively cranking the body into it. Now, I find this side a little bit harder, and that's not unusual. You might find some differences from one side to another. Embrace those differences and allow it to be part of your journey. Eventually, you'll release. Lower your hands down, push the earth away. As you tuck your back toes under, you'll pull the front left knee into chest and step back into down dog. Take a breath in and out through your nose smoothly. And then lower your knees down. We're going to come down onto our backs. Grab hold of your props that you'll use in between your heels and your butt when you lower down. And by squeezing the heels in towards your blocks and towards the glutes, it's creating an isometric contraction through the back of your thighs. Interlace your hands behind the head. Slightly scoop your tailbone under, then lift your head and shoulders up, and then reach your arms forward, past the legs. Maybe squeeze the legs in closer, maybe lift the collarbones up a little higher before you slowly, with control, lower down. Again, bring the legs in towards the chest, a little scoop of the tailbone, lift the head and shoulders up, then reach the arms forward. Maybe you curl into a smaller, teeny tiny little ball, legs in, chest up, before you lower the head and shoulders down. Just one more time. Pull the legs in towards the chest, lift the head and shoulders up. This time as you reach forward, you'll split the knees apart. Extend your wrists, fingers up, and now squeeze the legs to the outer parts of your arms and press your arms into the legs and hold. And then very slowly release and lower down. Move the blocks, the props out of the way for a moment. Do a little windshield wiper side to side with the legs. When you're ready, you can pull the knees in towards the chest, and we'll start to rock and roll up and down the spine if that feels okay on your back. Otherwise, use your hands to lift up to sitting, coming into boat pose, Navasana. Legs can stay together, or as an option, extend one leg out at a time, maybe both legs, and maybe even hold here, releasing your hands and maintain this active hip flexion for 3, 2, 1. Then release, lower down. Bring your hands forward, the legs backwards, and grab your 2 blocks or 2 props. You'll want to use something. If you don't have it, that's fine, but you'll probably want to use something to play around with this Lolasana work. So starting to work a little more towards our peak pose. You'll push your hands down, start to round the spine, pull the knees up towards your chest, pressing the tops of the feet to the earth. That's the first one. You might stick with that. Or the second round, as you push down, round the spine, lift the knees up, and try and pull your heels up towards your butt, actively floating the legs off the ground. So you might try that again and play with that a little bit. Otherwise, we're going to move on to crow pose. And now crow pose, our peak pose, it has a lot of different variations and it's taught in different ways. So you might be working a little bit more the crow pose variation where you take the middle part of your shins to the middle part of your upper arms. So I'm starting to kind of work my way into that shape here. Otherwise, some people, you might find it easier, depending on how much flexion you have in your hips, is to bring the knees up a little bit higher to the back of your armpits, or even a little bit lower, down by the elbows. So explore where it works for you. Try lifting up maybe one heel, maybe both heels at the same time, actively closing the gap between your heels and your bum. The collarbones are pulling forward as the spine is rounding. You might try the jump back to chaturanga. And if you do try that, feel free, pause. You might even try the crow pose again. Remember, for jump back chaturanga, collarbones reaching forward as the heels simultaneously are jumping backwards or pushing backwards. We'll come back to down dog. Bring your feet together, heels up high. Right leg to the sky. Bend the knee, bend the hip. Roll forward and step right foot between your hands. Coming into Trikonasana triangle pose. You might like to grab something for underneath your right hand. A little bit of elevation can be nice. And then bring your left hand onto your hip. So bottom arm is straight, press the hand firmly down, and even try a couple of those little shoulder circles like we did earlier in the practice, working the scapular rotation here. You'll want to finish with that slightly protracted and depressed and externally rotated upper arm position before the left arm reaches up. Pressing the pubic bone slightly forward up as the ribs come back. Then lower your left hand down and slowly bend into your front knee. Reach the right arm forward. Keep the belly resting to the inside of your right thigh as you slowly toe heel the left foot in a little bit closer until you feel like you can transfer the weight firmly into the bottom right leg. Keep with the knee bent to begin with, and then slowly begin to straighten the leg like you're trying to resist the straightening. The top leg slowly, the knee will bend. Point the toes. And then bend the hip, pull the knee in towards your chest. Maybe you catch hold of the foot. Maybe you come into a bit of a back bend. So Chapasana variation in our half moon Ardha Chandrasana. Keep externally rotating the right thigh rolling out, the outer hip drawing back. And when you do release, do so with control. Extend the hip, extend the leg, rebend the bottom knee, and softly transfer back to your triangle. Sweeping the left arm up and over, lowering the left fingertips to the floor. Turn the pelvis forward as you come onto the toes of your back foot, and rotate to the right, reaching right arm up to the sky, revolved pyramid, or revolved triangle pose, really. Lower the hands down, step back, down dog, and we'll do this on the other side. So feet will come together, lift the heels up, push right foot down, take left leg up and back. Bend the knee, bend the hip, pull the knee to chest as you step forward. Back heel will spiral down, toes slightly out, finding triangle pose on the left side. Option to grab the block for underneath your left hand, pushing the left palm firmly down, right hand to hip. It seems I forgot to on this side, but do a little bit of that scapular movement like you did on the first side before you reach the right arm up. Drawing the outer left hip back a little bit as you lengthen your spine forward, keep the ribs in. And then slowly bend into the front knee as you transfer the weight forward. Keep the right toes down to the floor. Keep moving forward, the knee will pass your ankle, and then when you feel sturdy and stable in that bottom leg, start to float the right leg up and back. Resist straightening the bottom leg, do it slowly. And when you're ready, back knee, the right knee will bend, point your toes. And then the right hip will bend, pull the knee into chest. Maybe catch hold of the foot. Maybe then extend the hip as you kick the leg back behind you. Option for Chapasana in our Ardha Chandrasana. Keep externally rotating your bottom left thigh, drawing the outer left hip back. And when you release, do so slowly with control. A big bend into your bottom knee. Step the right foot back into your triangle. Reach the right arm up and slowly overhead. Lower the right fingertips down, roll onto the toes of your back foot to square up your pelvis, and then to the left rotate, revolved Trikonasana. Left hand will come down, both hands will come down, step back, downward facing dog, and breathe. Long breath in, and long breath out through your nose. Eventually, we'll make our way down onto our spine, so feel free to lower the knees down and come down onto your backs. Otherwise, option to play with the transition of hopping through. So bend the knees, pounce, lift the knees and pull them in towards your chest. Cross your ankles as you squeeze the legs in, bringing the feet through, lower down one vertebra at a time onto your spine. Getting off of the wrists now. Just a little bit of back bending work from here. We've been doing a lot of front body work, so just a little bit of counter back body work. Not too deep, but just enough to leave things a little more balanced. So when you're ready, you'll press the feet firmly down, lift the hips up, then lower the hips down and lift your arms up to your overhead position. And continue. Pelvis up as arms come down. Pelvis down, arms lift up. And on this last one, as you press your feet firmly down, like you're digging the heels into the ground, option is to interlace your hands behind the back. Digging the heels down, as if you're energetically or as if you're isometrically trying to draw the heels back towards your bum, towards the back of your head, the back of your chest. Breath in, long breath out. Eventually release your hands, lower your butt down, and breathe. Letting your knees knock in, and then do a little bit of a windshield wiper from side to side. As you come back into center, the knees knock in towards each other, and again, taking the feet wide like we did at the beginning of our practice. And just again, notice how it feels in the back of your pelvis. Bring your right leg in towards your chest. Interlace your hands over your shin and breathe here a couple rounds of breath. Option is to extend the left leg. The right leg then extends as well to the sky. Lift your head and shoulders up and take an interlace of your hands behind your right leg wherever is available. Cutting the outer right hip down towards your inner left ankle. You can certainly stay here, or if you have the availability to grab hold of your big toe, then peace fingers around the big toe and press the ball mount forward. Open up the leg out towards the side, but keep your left thigh bone grounding down so you're not tipping the pelvis over to do so. And then switch. We'll turn this into a twist. The left leg will come across the body. Keep the bottom right leg straight. And drop the outer left hip down, your right hip down towards your inner left ankle. Lengthen the right side of your waist from the outer hip to your armpit. Release the foot and bring it back up to sky. Rebend your bottom knee, foot to floor, and place your right ankle over top of your left thigh. Slide your left foot over to the left a little bit more, and maintaining the figure 4 shape, you'll drop your legs to the right side. I love this stretch, especially for the left hip flexors, for the front of the belly, the quads. You're going to feel really lovely opening, I hope, through that area of the body that we've been working through quite a bit today. Return to center, and then we'll take the legs staying in that figure 4 shape over to the left side. You might like to use your left hand to gently press the top right knee away from the body. Return to center and we'll switch sides. The left knee will come to chest. Interlace your hands over the shin and breathe here. Option to extend the right leg and try to ground the right thigh towards the floor. Lift the head and the shoulders up to grab hold of the back of your left thigh, ankle, shin, calf, wherever it's available. Right thigh bone grounding down, outer left hip cutting down towards your inner right foot. And you can stay where you are, or maybe if it's available, you'll take hold peace fingers around your big left toe. Stay there or open out towards the left side. Keep the right thigh bone grounding. Keep the pelvis facing towards the sky if you can. Slowly return through center and you'll switch. The opposite hand will catch hold of the foot or the knee. You can rebend the knee certainly. Turning this into a twist, come to the outer edge of your right foot and hip with the left leg over top. Cutting the outer left hip down towards your inner right foot to open up the left side of your rib cage, the left side of your waist, the lower back. Breathe there. Release the foot and slowly come back into center. Bending the left knee, place the ankle on top of your right thigh, figure 4 shape. Slide the right foot a little more over to the right as you drop your legs to the left. Rotating the chest, a little bit of a spinal twist. And with the left ankle on top of the right thigh, giving some tractioning, some heaviness, and expanding the front of your right hip, the front of the belly, the front of the thigh. Slowly return to center and then switch, taking the legs over towards the right side. You might like to use the right hand to press the left thigh away from you and breathe. Expand the breath through the left side of the body. And then slowly we'll come back onto our backs. Finding the same internally rotated position with the knees together and the feet apart, like we had at the beginning. Perhaps noticing if there's a little bit more space there. And as you lie here, reflecting on your practice, embracing fully what it took to show up, the strength, the courage to try something new and something different, and noticing what you noticed about yourself along the way. The magic and the mystery that we can curiously dive into when we step onto the mat, into our bodies, our breath, and our minds. Feel free to stay here or come to sitting. Relax, release. You definitely deserve it.